And now we get into our news review segment. Our guests this morning, Sisala East legislator Mohammed Battaglia joins us. We also have Dr. Ikuya Amwako. She is with the MPP's Communications Directorate. Lady, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
They say a man can never be careful unless he does what?
Complete that for us.
Bukom Baku said something about a man wearing a white shirt.
Really?
Oh. Anyway, so you're in white this morning.
Yeah,
I don't know whether it's, you know, I can say you politicians. You politicians.
Maybe
if someday I get in there, we'll say we politicians. But as of now, it doesn't look like it. But you politicians, right? I know usually when it comes to a day like this, like at the Sona, you would have one side in white, another in black. But I could see or mine go. Another one says, or mine punto bao. Is that what you are doing today?
No, the funny thing is, those who were screaming on mine go not too long ago, just give them a few months and they will want the whole world to believe that now manna is raining from heaven.
But you are the same people saying, your spokesperson on the economy, Kojo Oponkroma, is saying that, government shouldn't paint an untruthful picture of the economy. But when the president did exactly that to some extent, you said that, he was fibbing. And now, so which is which? Because if it's...
See, we don't expect a gloomy picture to be painted. In fact, I came across something yesterday, and that's what I was going to spend my minute on.
Sure,
the report from Ghana Statistical Service that was talking about how much our economy has grown. Something like almost 6%, 1.2 trillion, right? If I'm not wrong. The number is 1.2 trillion, Ben, isn't it? And considering in 2017, we inherited an economy that was growing...
You mean the general output of our economy?
Yes,
that's what you're referencing?
Yes, was barely growing at about 3%. I mean, on that basis, it's a little funny how now we are being made to believe that the whole world is crashing down on us. Nothing is working. An economy that has been able to pay people, recruit people, embark on a lot of infrastructural projects. That's exactly what we mean by that. What we are being told and what we see on the ground doesn't really match exactly. We obviously went through something, but we are recovering. And that is the point that we hope that the government will not shy away from. There's nothing wrong with saying I've inherited a growing economy and I'm going to do better. You don't need to create the picture that we are literally in hell and I'm the savior when that is not so. That's the point we are trying to make, Ben.
Okay. I like the way when I smile, you look away because you think I'm up to something. Do you have any response to that? I have my own thoughts on that, but I'll share with her. But
clearly, I have. You know, it's just like the scenario of the butcher who fears knife.
The scenario of a butcher who fears a knife.
Fears knife.
Wow.
That's the scenario I have for
bars.
It's like, you know, she pointed out to 2017 where they inherited an economy growing at the rate of 3% or thereabout. But before even 2017, there was a clear projection that the economy will be doing up to 8% based on systems put in place. We all understand that we went through a turmoil regarding energy crisis in this country between 2014 and 2016, where huge investment in terms of generation capacity has been done. The President, John Dramani Mahama, then indicated to the whole world that yes, if measures put in place, this economy will see a tremendous growth in 2027, hoping that we're going to continue. Unfortunately, we lost the election. So if we're seeing that, I am sure it is based on the foundations put in place. It's not like in 2017, we gave something to you that was just an empty box. No. There were monies in the sinking fund and other places like 250 million for you to be able to start on. Even that is why when you came in, the Planting for Food and Jobs program became the first thing because there was already money there lying for you to start. So I think that in 2017, we left a quite healthy economy for you. But now we are seeing the figures to be different, where even when you go to most of the state agencies, we are seeing most accounts running negative, where we believe that the country has been, we inherited 721 billion debt of a country. We are looking at a huge import-driven economy. We are looking at a huge unemployment youth and many other things. Those are the things the president boldly said to the Ghanaian people that we will fix it, no matter how daunting the task is.
All right.
So I am sure, I wanted to use my 1 minute to say something, but I don't know whether I still have it.
I'll just. So this was just a teaser.
Yeah, it was a teaser.
This was a response to her.
My dear sister.
Okay, so let me just say this, and then you will have 40 seconds, not 1 minute, to share any further thoughts, and we move. So, Doc, here's the thing. Economic growth is good, but especially if you look at even the trajectory of countries like Argentina, right, where Milei is turning things around, how they've had to tighten their belts and how uncomfortable some people have become. Economic growth in mere GDP terms and macroeconomic terms does not necessarily operate in a vacuum. That is why a lot of the time NDC and NPP governments have touted macroeconomic this and that, and yet the ordinary man on the street has shown them the door by booting them out in the election. If it doesn't trickle down to what we call the microeconomy and get down into people's pockets, it means literally nothing. But all these statistics you mentioned, I agree, they are positive, they are good, even on the back of COVID-19. But here's what claws away from them. When you've managed to do some of those, and then you have inflation, where it has gone to and where it has got to now, okay? Where Caselato Forsen says they want to bring it to single digits, I think about 8%. Then you have the exchange rate where it is. And then you have a debt situation as we have it. It erodes everything, practically everything you've done. So to the ordinary person, that's why in our country, it's highfalutin. Oh, we've done, and the ordinary person is like,
Okay, so
Kenke is still, you know.
I will agree
you get what I mean?
on a couple of things.
I'm not
disagree on.
I'm not denouncing what you're saying, but I'm saying that politicians, NDC and NPP,
people want to.
Why sometimes you say these things and they mean nothing to the ordinary person? Are these factors?
But
they mean
do you
nothing.
agree that when the economy is larger and there's an overall larger amount of money running around, that means eventually governments will have access to be able to collect more taxes? That means a lot of the beautiful plans that the current administration wants to embark on, they will be able to have avenues to generate that revenue to be able to do.
Not necessarily. You know why? Part of why our economy is growing more is because our population is growing. Taxes. So if you had some things, especially with the indirect taxes, they are growing. It is what it is. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get more in your kitty. We know about the tax net and what is in there. So
that's why we
have to be careful.
That's why we vote for a government, and that's why we have a finance minister. They are supposed to be able to make sure that these nice figures that we have are trickling down into the pockets of the average Ghanaian. So that's the point. And these things just happened. I mean, it's not like we can run away from what happened in 2022. That happened. We had problems with debt servicing. That has also been handled marvelously. Why is that something that nobody is talking about?
Who created the problem with? You say we have problems with debt servicing. Who created the debt servicing problem?
One problem that I have with the way we talk about debt in this country is how, especially our brothers in the NDC, when it suits them, they want to quote in Ghana cedis because of what happened with our exchange
But that's one,
rate.
I think.
But if you
I think the NPP has a history. You don't want to go there.
I don't want to.
Dr. Baumia will give you too much.
I'm talking about today, Ben. I'm talking about exactly today. Because if you look at our debt figures in USD, which is what you borrow in, nobody goes to borrow in Ghana cedis.
Which is true.
Yes, you borrow in USD.
True.
And usually the value of that money doesn't change much. So even though the cedi value of what you borrowed is so much, the value in USD is still about the same. And you look at what the government has been able to do with all of that. All we are saying is that whether it takes some time for these economic factors to show for the average Ghanaian or not, it's still a fact that what we are handing over to this government is better than what we inherited. And we didn't just sit down doing nothing when we inherited that.
That's subjective.
We did better to try and improve things. We've been able to have about 20 billion of our debts essentially forgiven. That is something that nobody even talks about. And I think that's gone a long way to reduce our debt to GDP to now about 60-something. We're on course with all the parameters that the IMF set for us. So not to just tickle ourselves and laugh, but these are real milestones that we set out to achieve, that we have even overachieved in some of them.
Overachieving. You can never say that. I keep saying that no administration has come that you will say has not done something for Ghana. The MPP must be credited. And one of the things I'll never stop talking about is free SHS, though I feel its implementation has been a bit problematic. But if you have done all these things, and even just the minutiae, you saddle us with over $400 million of Agenda 111, which is at precarious levels. We've been here before, so I don't want us to go down.
Yeah, and we could go.
You have the
again.
National Cathedral, over 50 million. Do you know what that could have done for Ghana?
58 million.
And just note.
But now we're building a Hajj village.
When we
for
talk
600
about
million, isn't it?
Is it government funding it?
Really?
Where
Then
is it?
are we really going to sit around the table and have this conversation?
Let's do this. Because when the cathedral, for example, we were told that it wasn't going to be sponsored by the state. We stuck to the script until we get to the point where we find out that it is not going that way.
That the government had put in
exactly. So let the media have that piece. But just a quick point, and then you come in and we move on. All this growth and all of that, it can be both positive and negative. The simple point is Ghanaians want to feel the impact. This NDC administration, the time for talk is running out, and very soon Ghanaians will be clamoring for the very things you promised. It is bottom line.
Sure.
MPP has faced its verdict. Sure. It's you, the NDC now. But just a quick point, when you mentioned borrowing, my mind was averted to it as well. Of course, there's local borrowing, which has also been a problem of the erstwhile administration, because you ended up crowding out the private sector to the point where even farmers were not getting enough. Like, you go and the banks they find it easier to give to government because it's easy money, easy pickings, instead of, giving to individuals. But then on the other side, you have to understand the banks to some extent, because there was a report in recent times that pointed to the fact that some non-performing loans, NPLs, are as high as 81% for some banks.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's 4/5 of what they've given out. Non-performing. People are not paying back. So it's a problematic area. But please, quick thoughts. Your 40 seconds and then I'll come back to you.
You see, sometimes we have to appreciate very little things that bring about great transformation. On the 6th of March, my constituency, led by the regional coordinating council, for instance, we have the MUSEC, and also we have many other stakeholders, decided on that day to embark on the cleanup campaign. And that actually resonated very well with the people. And I think that I must, as a leader of the constituency, express my gratitude. Okay. Because one is about to be able to inculcate in the young ones the spirit of keeping our environment clean. I also want to say this by expressing a profound gratitude and on an individual I want to single out that has spent his time and energy as a young man called Ataw Ayamga. I am telling you, Benjamin, this man can be described as the Erastus, as the donko of our area, who is fighting to keep our environment safe. It is important we recognize such individuals who are doing a lot. Okay. Trust me, I have also had discussions with the coordinating director indicating that if we could replicate this, even on quarterly basis, it will help. Otherwise, we are not conscious about our environment, and we are destroying the environment and blaming people, also blaming other people for the ailments.
Time's up. Thank you for those thoughts, and we salute this gentleman. But beyond that, Galamsey is still a reality. Even another thing we often don't talk about, sand winning. Sand winning is doing a lot of damage to Ghana. So the NDC should buckle its belt and deal with the situation. Every now and then we hear of incidents here and there and some political actors and a few things. I'm glad the president came out and said no one should call anybody and talk about some of these things, where Forestry Commission people go into some forest and maybe... I mean, how? Imagine that. In the past, we've had Forestry Commission officials go into a forest and they are beaten to a pulp. That should not continue to happen. Yeah. And if any political actors, past or present, are involved, they should be dealt with. Finito. We don't want stories. Give us a better guide.
That we are prepared to do.
Let's get into the newspapers. Doc, I want to start with you. Let's start with your papers. Today, I want you guys to go because I can run quickly. So you start.
Okay, so the Hawk newspaper. The first photo is of the Chief Justice, jailed for nothing, man locked up for 19 years over Bangle trial. We will look at that in detail later. Government shuts down MPP whoppers. 100 ministers claim rubbished. Borough blow, nothing to show. That's from Haruna. Furniture frenzy, BOG HQ $11 million decor scandal. Fasten seatbelts, Ghana-Canada air deals take flights. And that's on the front page of the Hawk.
Would you like to do some stories from there before we go to the next one?
I'm thinking the only thing I find really interesting is 19 years of a Bangle trial. And so
Is it the jail for nothing?
Yes, yes.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in that too.
Yes, so let me just try and find out, even though it doesn't say where we can find that.
You can look for it in there. I'm sure it will be.
Ghanaian justice system, yes.
But is that the story? Jail? Is that the jail for nothing?
Yes, that had the same photo, so I am assuming that is the same. Okay. Yes, legal black hole swallowing in innocent lives. So I'm just going to take it there. Appear and Afoko are not isolated cases. Ghana's prisons are filled with individuals who have been left to rot behind bars for years. Some are waiting trial, others victims of wrongful convictions. Recent reports have revealed that over 30% of inmates in Ghana's prisons are pre-trial detainees, many held far longer than legally permissible. The denial of bail in politically sensitive cases, the lack of legal aid for the poor, and the sheer inefficiency of the justice system has created a justice regime that punishes before proven guilty. So I'm just going to leave it there. I think that's a very serious matter, and I'm hoping that our efforts to undertake the constitutional review will do some of these. But I do believe that it goes beyond the constitutional review. The system itself needs to be overwhelmed. I mean, why are people being denied bails for, as I would see it, relatively minor offenses? Yeah, so I think we should definitely work on that and to find alternative ways of punishing people.
Alternative resolution when it comes to those areas where you can
because sometimes you see someone has stolen a goat or something and has been sentenced to 15 years. I do understand that theft is theft, but you know, there are definitely nuances.
But here's the thing,
that situation.
You're a medical doctor. Law is my area. The problem, sometimes before some of us read law, you would ignorantly, and the judges are, you see, the judges only operate with what
yes, the guidelines
the laws tell them,
have.
the guidelines they have. If you look at Acts 29 and 30, so if it is not a crime, they can't say it is a crime.
Yes.
And if it is a crime, they can only mete out punishment based on what the law says are the punitive measures that can be enforced.
Yeah.
And so then it's up to the judge to use some level of discretion to say that, okay, maybe in this one, it's minimum of 5 years, maximum of 15 years. And I'm going to give the maximum sentence based on the facts. Or I'm going to give the minimum sentence. You get it? Unless those things change, it is what it is, which is why at a point we had this misdemeanor and other charges when it comes to graft and some other things change. So for that one, sometimes it becomes complicated. But it is really unfair when you've not done something and it's pinned on you. I remember in the UK, just briefly, there's a story where a gentleman was in the cooler for about, 17 years?
Yeah.
On rape. And there were numerous instances where, the lawyers tried to prove that he was not 17 years. I think for him, they had to peg a maximum of £1 million that they are using as reparation. And there are calls for that to be increased because 17 years of your life, and they are paying him in installments. So I think we need something like that. Some more proactiveness in that regard in Ghana, and damages to be paid.
But sometimes even before you get your verdicts in court, you've been on remand for over 5 years.
Yes.
And that in itself is a sentence. Okay, so let's go to the New Republic.
Well, one this way, I was trying to say that besides even just looking at the infrastructure challenges that we have as a country to be able to expedite some of these things.
You mean the courts?
Yes, the courts and even many, for instance, even if you look at what I want to hammer on is the fact that we should try to look at the law and the spirit of the law in itself, where we think that the ordinary person should be protected. For instance, we have some other people where the law is supposed to make them comfortable or give them justice. The law is used as a stampeding block for their own freedom. I live in a rural area, and you could see some of them go through this. For instance, a prosecutor who is supposed to make sure that they protect the ordinary individual, they use that system of court to also make sure that they intimidate and take advantage of people. That's why some of them can even just throw these people in remand and forget about them until somebody somewhere reminds. And that's why, and you realize that this guy, we have Sesu, used to run a pro bono, pro bono for some of these people, and it helps. We think that when the system begins to look at it and save people from this, it will help.
And maybe a final point, since your party has also spoken about a 24-hour economy. I've said this here before. The law is part of the economy. What if over the weekends we had a system where there would be active courts working and taking charge of some of the backlog of cases, or whether it is the clerks doing some work, so that when another Monday comes, some of the work that would have been done on Monday, Tuesday has already been done over the weekend. A different set of people who are also employed into the system. Do you get it? Yeah. So that then look at the land litigation cases we have. So many of them. Some of them have been there for donkey years. They are still pending, among others. Look at the Afuku case. Maybe we can accelerate through that. So
perfect. And
24-hour economy, 24-hour
even
courts.
Expanding the court system to rural areas. For instance, in Tumo, we do not even have a circuit court. If you have a case in Tumo, you have to travel to Wa. That is causing the prosecutors and the police people a big challenge to be able to get a suspects there for trials. So some of these things all impede. And they keep people in Wa, and they don't even remember that some people are kept in remand, waiting to be heard.
Okay. Doc, let's do one more paper, and then we'll do another two from Mohammed before I come in.
Okay, so let's look at the New Republic, which talks about the budget. KCL's budget showdown, betting e-levy, COVID taxes yanked for Mahama reforms. Maslock launches groundbreaking support scheme for female farmers. 2025 budget boldly embraces revenue growth and fiscal prudence. I'm happy they are at least talking about the revenue growth. Ghana must build economic shock absorbers, says Prof. Kachi. We'll look at the budgets from here. Ghanaians are on the edge as finance minister, as finance maestro. That's an interesting term, considering it's been 2 months. Dr. KCL Atuba forcing gears up to unveil the grand 2025 budget vision today. Yes, so I think it is just talking about the budgets and the taxes that are going to be repealed. And on this, the only thing that I'm very eagerly excited to wait for, I can't wait for it to be done with this so that I can be glued to my TV to decipher everything that comes out of the budget. Because there are going to be revenue shortfalls, definitely. Adding the issue with USAID and all of that. So it's very interesting for me to see how the NDC government is going to go about in plugging these revenue shortfalls. We do hope, we seriously and vehemently hope that there will be no introduction of new taxes. Because what is the point in taking away taxes just to reintroduce new taxes through the back door? That's something that I'm very confident that the people of Ghana would not be happy with, and we would definitely...
But did the administration say they would never introduce...
No, we are saying that. You said you are removing bets and tax.
You as the MPP are saying they should not. But they are in government and they will determine
they can do whatever.
For example, VAT, they have said that at some point they must increase.
They have over 180 MPs in Parliament. Yes. The fact is, they can approve whatever budgets they present. But I'm telling you, from having a few conversations with people out there, and right now, as a normal Ghanaian who pays taxes, I am not looking forward to removing these taxes, only to introduce some other taxes that are probably going to pinch me more. That is what I am putting out.
When your administration was introducing the betting tax, e-levy, and
see, when we introduced the e-levy and whatnot, it was obvious to everybody that the country was in distress, and we needed to come up with ways to be able to recover. Now that recovery is on course. It was even in our manifesto that we were going to scrap these taxes. However, we did have a plan to be able to overcome the revenue shortfalls. That did not necessarily include Dr. Bawumia's plan did not necessarily include introducing new taxes. So if you promise the same thing and your approach is to remove these in name and to reintroduce other taxes, personally, I'll not be happy. Because I always tell people that I feel like personally I'm one of the most overtaxed people. So I can't say that because people definitely have more. But I said, looking at my age and my taxes, I'm like, that is too much. Yes. I do think you should have a tax break till you're 35 or something.
Quick one. They are not going according to Dr. Bawumia's plan.
No.
The NDC's manifesto is
exactly what I'm saying.
Let's move forward.
That's the hope of the people of Ghana. Right. We do not expect you to remove these taxes, only to turn around to bring new ones.
Let's move forward. Mohammed, let me just do something quickly with her. You mentioned the other day the cars and clearing, and what's the status of that?
Nothing has happened so far, Ben.
When you say nothing has happened, what do you mean?
The cars are still at the ports. Yes.
For the medical doctors?
Yes. The cars are still like, so I'm very happy you are bringing it up so that we can
Since you've
continue
forgotten,
that.
I'm
not
helping
forgotten
you
about
because-
it at all. We are very glad.
It can be referred to the appropriate quarters for actions to be taken. But like you said, I am sure that the NDC during election 2024 promised Ghanaians something. And that the NDC, led by President John Dramani Mahama, we are committed. I am sure today, once again, the Minister of Finance is coming to fulfill a constitutional imperative, as indicated in Article 179. Clearly, he's coming to lay a statement on behalf of the president. And in that statement, we know Ghanaians will get hope. I've told somebody that, yes, the Ghanaians were very clear in their mind what they wanted before going to the polls. Hence, they did not go to the toad asking for a chair because they know the toad was squatting. They wanted truth, and they will see the truth in John Dramani Mahama. They wanted nothing but what? Hope. And it's the hope now John Dramani Mahama, president, is offering Ghanaians. Clearly, I know that the issues about e-levy, issues about COVID tax will go. She did mention even surveys were conducted regarding that the country is likely to lose about 6.6 billion thereabout. If you pick it cumulatively for 4 years, that will amount to around 28 billion. But that notwithstanding, I think that if we are able to be prudent and physically discipline ourselves, making sure that we strengthen our measures of tax collection, reducing the VAT. Figures indicate that we are able to only get 39% of the targeted amount using the VAT. We are losing up to 61%. If we are able to streamline all this, trust me, the country will still be able to run. We also know, yes, there were instances where...
So summary thoughts, so we can...
Yeah, there were instances where we decided to give tax exemptions on other essential goods and services. But we think that if we are able to look at this and minimize it, we are able to keep a chunk of that money to run our economy. So do not entertain any fear. We are prepared, and we'll make sure that we won't come behind the door giving you tax that you don't want. Ghanaian people know that they will get the truth from NDC. We'll be very candid.
All right, thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah.
What would you give us from your newspapers?
Well, the Catalyst had very interesting headlines. For instance, we start by saying that Mahama scores high marks. Clearly, everybody knows he started on a good note. And we have Mahama on neighborliness tour of West Africa. He was recently in the Sahelian countries visiting. It is time for lasting peace to prevail. Press Mahama to Boko and other conflict areas. Then we have Daily Guide. It talks about 20...
I want us to, so the Catalyst, is there any story you're doing from
Yeah, I was looking at, we could look at the Mahama scores high marks.
No surprises that you want to do that story, but let's
No, clearly, I think that, like I said, we are looking for hope. And Ghanaians want leadership. They want to make sure that somebody who can galvanize all of us to achieve the objective that we set for ourselves. And that is why we think that so far, you can see the participation. It is like an inclusive governance. Just that our brothers and sisters still are a bit reluctant, but I'm sure going forward they will come on board, making sure that together we build the country. On all fronts, talking about making sure that physical discipline measures, we saw what happened during the SIF match, make sure that we're able to cut. We are talking about lean government, where we believe that a lot of waste will be dealt with. We are looking at making sure that he has constantly warned and give signal to his appointees that I am not going to condone any wasteful behavior. I'm not going to condone any responsibility or arrogance. Make sure that whatever you do reflect the life of the people. Like she said, I think Doc made a very important point, and you really made that point, indicating that normally we get sometimes excited over figures, which does not translate directly into the lives of our people. This is not the time. The president is saying that let's do basic things, like bringing projects, bringing ideas, bringing policies, more in agriculture, in education, and all that will reflect the lives of our people. So I am very excited that President Mahama is on the right course. President Mahama is taking the right step that will change our economy. You go to agriculture sector, now there's an indication that there will be quite an amount of substantial funds allocated to that to be able to run a system that will be able to feed this country. Looking at the agriculture, talking about green development, talking about vegetables, talking about even the poultry side, where we can minimize the import burden that we have over 2 billion on an annual basis. I don't understand why this country that we can throw tomato seeds in the next 3 days when it rains, they germinate, yet we import tomato at the cost of 200 million per year.
Right. So just some quick thoughts. I always, when I have members of government come here, I keep reminding you for good reason. Yeah. One, it's early days yet. You are just 2 months and a few days old.
Sure.
You've started well as a government on many parameters. In some areas, you can still do a lot more, including Galamsey. Sure. You enjoy a lot of goodwill now.
Yes. Sorry.
The goodwill now is great.
Yes.
You know, Ghanaians are behind you. You just won with over 1.7 million votes. That goodwill is there. It doesn't last forever. You must know that. And just a quick reminder, when in 2017, throughout 2017, especially in early 2017, and the whole talk about I'll put my presidency on the line to fight Galamsey, Ghanaians supported Nana Akufo-Addo. I mean, he couldn't make a wrong move. He couldn't take a wrong step. You know why? Because he enjoyed the goodwill of all of us. But once things started changing, that is where the devil came in, so to speak, figuratively. So don't tickle yourselves and laugh. There's a whole lot of work to be done.
Of course.
And the goodwill, as quickly as it comes, can be gone. Just a few words for you. That's it. Let's make tracks.
Benjamin, I'm not disputing that fact. The issue about Galamsey, we know. I think that the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Mohammed, indicated that he has already accepted the challenge and government has already put in place, talking about the repealing LI 2462. And they said that, yes, this thing must be repealed to make sure that we safeguard our forest reserves. And I told somebody that, yes, we have 100% problem. If we agree to be able to divide this thing into sub-units of 276 constituencies for us to manage and safeguard our environment, that will be done. I also want to say that the government is committed in not just fighting and shooting people or burning excavators. Right. Government is looking at employing mechanisms or measures that will be able to direct people to do proper mining practices. So that will be done.
All right. Were you going to say something?
On Galamsey, I mean, yes, I will try to be very brief, even though there's so much to be said. Because what the NDC government is now proposing and doing on the matter of Galamsey, number one, is very far from what they promised. They've come into government and they are basically doing the same things that were ongoing before they came in. Operation Halt had been going around seizing machines before they came in. All of these acts of law enforcement have been going on even before they came into government. And so they are not doing anything new. What has changed, however, is how emboldened these illegal miners have become. I saw a video where Erastus and a few people from the anti-Galamsey task force tried to enter a place, and they were confidently stopped by an NDC constituency chairman who was, the first thing I was surprised is, he was concerned that he was not told before the operation happened. Then they didn't even leave the matter there. They moved to block the road to prevent access into the community by the anti-Galamsey task force. Nothing has been said about it, and it's just like we are just forgetting about it.
It's not true.
And what I'm saying is that what has been said about it, you have said something.
Some action.
I've not heard anything from the government.
I'm not saying from me.
Okay.
I'm saying
so have you heard anything from President Mahmoud on that matter?
That was in fact, what was being done was he was part of a task force. You just mentioned yes. So they went in there, but these people also have tip-offs. In fact, some of the people, there were 3 groups also, and some of them sent a group to come and meet them there. I agree with you, the nefariousness, it didn't start today. But the point is that if a task force is going in there, and these groups even have the intel, they heard of it. But by the way, sometimes they have coconut sellers and all of that, by the way. All these people are giving them intel. Ben. I'm saying you are right, but don't create the picture that started.
No, when did you see? No,
it must be resolved.
No, I understand. But when did you see an MPP constituency organizer having the guts, the hubris, and the impudence to stop people? No. When did you see an MPP constituency executive stopping Operation Halt from happening? Before the NDC came into government, there were calls by some members of the NDC to call a state of emergency on this Galamsey issue. What happened to the calls on the state of of emergency.
This paracetamol.
Now you have
Thank you.
executive authority. Why have you not called the state of emergency?
This paracetamol you are prescribing will not be the
led by Professor Jampo, who is now a political appointee, was calling for everybody, every worker in this country to go on strike because they wanted the government to call a state of emergency.
So let me do this quickly.
So
we have to move
all
on.
right,
We have to
where's
move
your
on.
state of
We have
emergency?
to
That's
move
the only
on.
question I have, and I'm landing there.
But the whole bit, I mean, people got beaten. I think it was
No, don't even
Ohiming,
go
was it
there.
Ohiming or Ohiming Teria or Erastus Asare? Don't
Yes.
go.
No,
And,
I do.
relax. And people, I mean, the people identified as, your party was so. This was during the MPP,
See,
late MP. So let's not do
Ben,
that.
I understand.
MPP and
Anybody
deal with
can.
the problem.
No, see, last year, nobody wanted to hear that. I am a strong proponent of let's do away with politics in Galamsey.
If you are,
but the truth is the truth. That time, anybody can say a party was so. But this is an elected
We just had a minister about 3 weeks ago.
All right, guys.
We had a minister 3 weeks ago.
One person
who
talking at a time.
Yes, okay.
So, Doc, you've spoken for quite a bit. Quick response. Let's do the daily guide. We have to go.
So what I'm simply saying is that
And simply make it simple.
yes, government is just setting up. We have the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, taking all the bold steps, making sure that we don't just use physics. We also use brains to make sure that we deal with some of these challenges.
All right.
Stakeholders meeting have been called. For the first time, MPs have been invited to a conference where we were all.
Sorry.
MPs have been invited to a conference where we were all put in the loop to understand the exigency of this situation, said that we can all get up and help work in our various constituencies to get this menace halted. So don't make it look as if it's a kind of no hope.
Let's do the daily guide quickly, and then I'll come in with my papers and we'll.
Well, the daily guide, we have a 2025 budget, e-levy, COVID, tax to go. Then we have JB Donkwa killer bail, hiring moved to March 2025. 4 killed in Gori accident, a crash rather. We have China Fujian fishing calls for enhanced security. Then we have NIB releases gift to Owari Mensa.
All right. Would you like to do any?
Yeah, I want to look at issues about road accidents.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that.
But give us a snippet of the story. Give us a little bit from the story.
Okay.
Doc, you have one paper left, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Mohammed.
You can go there.
They say 4 people, including 3 males and 1 female, have been confirmed dead in a Gori road accident, which occurred at Infancy near Kumasi in the Ashanti region. Accident reportedly occurred when a Ford transit bus from Kumasi to Doma, Ahinkro, veered off its lane after developing a tire burst to crash head-on with a man diesel tipper truck. The Abuakwa Divisional Police report, which confirmed the Gori crash, disclosed that several other people, especially in the Ford transit bus, also sustained severe body injuries and have been hospitalized. So clearly talks about the road candidate we've been experiencing. And I think that is becoming one too many. Besides the normal ailments that we know, and we think that accidents of such nature should be looked at clearly, and all measures should be put in place, making sure that our roads are safe to fly. Because I believe that people should take responsibility. For instance, drivers who are moving people from one point to the other should understand that these people have given their lives to them to be able to take them to their point of destination. When you are on the road, you should be able to restrain yourself and adhere to all road safety measures to make sure that you get to your destination very nicely. Also, I think that we have a lot of policemen on the road. They should be able to make sure that they check on these vehicles, making sure that vehicles are of road-weighty nature before they fly on this road. So to me, I think that it is something as a nation we have to look at and make sure that we advise, and also we make sure that we take measures that will be able to put the right people on the road to steer our passengers or individuals to their destinations.
All right. Thank you very much for those thoughts. Let's get into my stack of papers very quickly. The Ghanaian Times, public expectations from 2025 budget. Reduce taxes, cost of living, create employment. Public urges government. Then there's also government operation cracks down on illegal miners, confiscates 9 excavators, bulldozer, arrests 4 persons. Let's uphold principles of Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Minority Leader Alexander Afenyomarkin says so. Oblimpong, Dr. Weche Kojo II is Paramount Chief of English Alata, President of Traditional Council. That's the GARHC saying that. On the back page, Qatar Charity inaugurates a refurbished 37 military hospital mosque. Ghana Water MD inspects treatment plans to address production shortfalls. Those details in there. Let me just take a swipe at a few of them. So, Doc, you were talking about Galamsey. Let me see what's happening here. A joint operation by the Rapid Response Unit of the Forestry Commission and personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces has led to the seizure of 9 excavators, 1 bulldozer, and the arrest of 4 persons suspected to be illegal miners, a source has disclosed to the Ghanaian Times. The operation was undertaken by the RRU of the Commission and 30 military men in compartments 17 and 20 in the Tano Area Forest Reserve in the Enchi Forest District of the Western North region. So that story there. As for the expectations of the Ghanaian people, I don't want to go into that. We've already looked at it. Professor Enim, the government statistician, says economy grows 5.7%. Ghana's economy, including oil and gas, provisional results grew by 5.7% in 2024 compared to 3.1% in the previous year. Then there's page 9, very quickly. So page 9, let's uphold principles of Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Minority Leader. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyomarkin has entreated Ghanaians to uphold the principles of the late Dr. Joseph Boakye Dankwa, a leading founder of the United Gold Coast Convention for National Unity and Development. According to him, those principles for which J.B. Dankwa fought and suffered persecution at the hands of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president, holds the country together today. It's interesting because I saw a post by the Daily Graphic referencing what the Ochenhene had said, and the comments underneath were pretty interesting. When it comes to Nkrumah and J.B. Dankwa, I always say this: we can't pick and choose. If you look at the NPP or the UP tradition, they would want to pick J.B. Dankwa over everybody else. If you look at the socialist or the other dispensation, including the NDC, they want to pick Nkrumah over everybody else. If you want to pick them, pick both the good and the bad. So if you want to pick Dr. Nkrumah, don't also forget, yes, some actions were taken, the bombing in Kulungugu and the rest, the paranoia, the Preventive Detention Act, and all of those things. You must add that because the good and the bad together. If you pick J.B. Dankwa, you must also pick the good and the bad, the results of whatever collusions may have been made when people were saying independence now, in the shortest possible time, and others were saying independence now. What that meant, was it because they were not in lead? I mean, the links with purportedly CIA. We must investigate all of that, interrogate them. That is what we must do when it comes to these figures, and not pick and choose what is good and what is not. Economy Times, I'll just leave you with headlines. Bank of Ghana starts sweeping policy reforms. 2025 budget, tax policies dominate discussions. An economist says T-bill rates decline could disincentivize commercial banks. On the back page, strong financial buffers could end Ghana's IMF cyclical dependence. That's according to economist Professor John Gachi. Lady, gentlemen, 30 seconds. We have to go. I'll start with you this time, Mohammed.
Okay. On what topic do you want us to talk on?
Anything, but 30 seconds.
Okay, sure. Clearly, I think, like you said, the stories about Ghana still is like close to 60, 80 years. Yes, we are still trying to define the founders and who contributed what at any point in time. Like, I do agree with you clearly that, yes, in telling these stories, we should be very holistic and honest. If we are taking Nkrumah's contribution to this country called Ghana, can never be overemphasized. Okay. I am sure there might be issues that happened in 64 right. that led to some other actions. Okay. But I'm telling you that you cannot sweep under the carpet. His
point made. Doc, we have to go. Quick thoughts.
Okay, so again, for me, it's still the matter of Galamsey because it was one of the reasons, it was one of the key issues going into the election. So not to just me, but I'm sure there are lots of Ghanaians that are just sitting at home shaking their heads at the actions of the government right now. First, I've not seen them institute a single new policy. I heard them talk about an alternative livelihood program, which we all know is something that has been going on. using law enforcement to fight galamsey, something that has been going on unsuccessfully. So where are the brand new ideas they promised? If they've run out of ideas, we are more than open and welcome to discuss Dr. Bawumia's plans for galamsey.
Thank you very much
to help
for
them
sharing
out.
your thoughts, lady and gentlemen. Mohamed Bataglia is Member of Parliament, Sisala East. We also have Dr. Ikuya Mwako. She is with the MPP's Communications Directorate. Both of them joined this conversation, I should say. Later, I'll be telling you about that solar system that you need for your homes, but that will be after sports. Do stay.